Good morning. I hope everyone is doing well and hanging in there during this unusual time. I want to thank you for coming to our very first culinary exploration class. Today I'm going to go over how to make pancakes from scratch. So this way you can hop into the kitchen with your parents or grandparents, or if you have an older brother or an older sister, and all those things. And this way you can make pancakes with them. So it's one of those things where I definitely suggest having supervision, especially if it's your first time in the kitchen, just because there is fire. You can get burned easily. There's even, if later on when we start talking about cutting things, there's a knife and that's sharp. So it's definitely one of those things where the more you cook in the kitchen, the more opportunity you have to do more things, and to get to a point where you can cook on your own. Because that's what it's all about. It's all about having fun and all about feeding yourself and feeding other people. So I picked pancakes because it's a very easy place to start. There is no cutting. It's more like measuring, and then just combining ingredients. And then, we get to work with a little bit of fire and a little bit of flame there. And everyone loves pancakes. So a couple different things. So the ingredients for pancakes, we have flour. This is just an all-purpose flour. Granulated sugar to help balance out with a little bit of that sweetness. This recipe calls for 1 egg, but I'm going to increase the recipe by 1, so I'm doubling the recipe, so I need 2 eggs. Butter. This is melted butter. And all I did was I just put it in the microwave and just 15-second increments until it was starting to melt, and then I took it out, and then it just finished melting on its own. Baking powder. This is our leavening agent. This is what's going to help our pancakes come up and poof and give us that pillow-like. Salt. Milk. And then I also grabbed chocolate chips and blueberries. But you could do without. You could add toasted walnuts, bananas, strawberries, all those things you can use. I mean, pancakes, you can, the sky's the limit, and everyone's always creating different types of pancakes, so that's always the fun thing with pancakes. For people that might have a gluten allergy, I would suggest a couple different brands, such as Bob's Red Mill. Bob's Red Mill is a very, very big company that does a lot of different types of flour. And they have a really good 1-to-1 blend. So whatever the recipe or normal recipe says for all-purpose flour, it would just be the same exact with the Bob's Red Mill. And also King Arthur's flour. King Arthur is the same company here. And they have a 1-to-1 gluten-free flour as well. So for some people that don't know what gluten is the combination of protein, which is actually in flour or grain, that actually forms an elasticity structure. And so anything from, flour, whole wheat, those things are what have this gluten in it. So for people that can't have gluten, it's because their body just doesn't digest it properly. Same thing with somebody who couldn't have milk. Maybe they have a lactose intolerance. Instead of using milk, you could use water as a substitute, and then just add an extra egg in there, which will give you that fat and that rich content that you're looking for in pancakes, because that's what it's all about. Yeah, that's pretty much about it. Instead of butter, you could use vegetable oil. If you didn't have butter, you could easily just use that. It just kind of gives you that that fat content that you're looking for, and also allows you to kind of like move it around and some pliability there. Okay, so in this recipe, it is the normal recipe is 1 cup of flour, 1 tablespoon of sugar, 2 teaspoons. So this right here is the tablespoon, 1 TBSP, and this is the teaspoon. 1 TSP. So, difference is a lot. So if a recipe calls for 1 teaspoon, but you actually use the tablespoon, you see the difference there? So make sure when you are looking at recipes, you are paying attention to that because it's very important. So, like I said, it is 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1 egg, 1 cup of milk, and 2 tablespoons of butter. Like I said, I'm going to double this recipe. So 1 cup plus 1 cup gives me 2 cups of flour. 1 tablespoon of sugar plus 1 more tablespoon of sugar is going to give me 2 tablespoons of sugar, and then so forth. The 1/4 teaspoons of salt, doubling that, 1/4 plus 1/4, technically gives you 2/4, which, when you simplify, is 1/2 of a teaspoon of salt. So a little bit of math that comes into cooking, simple math, and then, using reading, math, and then also going through the steps and knowing your process, where you're supposed to be by reading the procedure. For me, this is something that I do pretty consistently. So for me, I know the procedure. I'm going to put my dry ingredients in one bowl. I'm going to put my wet ingredients in a second bowl. Mix my wet ingredients together. Combine my dry ingredients. And then I'm going to pour in my wet into my dry. Simple as that. I'm going to whisk it together. Just to incorporate. You don't want to move it too much. A little bit of lumps are okay with pancakes. And then we're going to cook them. And so then when we start cooking, you have to be set up and you have to be ready. So I have a little bit of pan spray, so this way my pancakes don't stick. I have a spatula. That'll help me kind of move my pancakes around and get them from underneath so they're not sticking. And then I already have a plate and another spatula already set up. So when they are starting to finish, it's just quick. So you're not burning them and you're not losing time. Because if you take too long, they're going to get cold. So you always have to be thinking ahead when cooking, so this way things come out on time when they're supposed to. Okay, so we will start with our dry ingredients first. So like I said, it says 1 cup of flour, but we're doubling it, so it's going to be 2 cups of flour. Trying to make sure my measuring is all dry. So something like this, a heap over bunch of flour, isn't really what we're looking for. So, and you want to make sure this is level off, because this is over 1 cup. And we want to make sure it's a perfect 1 cup. So what I'm going to use my spatula here, and I'm actually just going to knock this over and just flatten this out. Just like this. So now it's perfectly lined and even. So that's 1 cup. And I'm going to go for 1 more. And the good thing about this is that the mess you make is the mess you clean. So if you work efficiently and diligent and you don't make a mess, then you have less to clean. If you make the mess, it's on you to clean it, nobody else. And that goes for anybody from a chef all the way to the dishwasher in every restaurant I've ever worked at. Your mess, you clean it. So, when cooking, baking, or in the kitchen, just be smart, take your time, and make sure that you clean as you go. Okay? So, next, 1 tablespoon of sugar, and I'm doubling it, so I'm going to do 2 tablespoons of sugar. So say you don't have a little spatula like that, and you need to level off your sugar like this, you can just use your finger. Nice, flat, boom. Okay, 2 tablespoons of sugar done. 2 teaspoons of baking powder, and we're going to double it. So remember, teaspoon on top, tablespoon on the bottom, complete difference. So cool thing about this baking powder is that they have this little lip here to help you so you can level off your ingredients. So I'm going to want 4 of these, so I'm doubling it. One-fourth teaspoon of salt. I'm doubling it, so it's going to be 1/2. So that's all of our dry ingredients here in our bowl. And I'm simply just going to mix them and incorporate the whole thing. That's it. Okay, now we're on to our wet ingredients. This is the 1 cup of milk, an egg, and 2 tablespoons of butter. So for this, you're going to want to scramble your eggs. So I'm going to do my eggs first, scramble them, add all my other wet ingredients. So simple crack. I'm literally just going to tap this right onto the table. And you want to tap very lightly so you don't get any shells. And just do 1 egg at a time. Even right there, I added a little bit of a shell. So I'm just going to come in there and just scoop it out. Just like that. So same thing. Then I'm going to take my fork, and I'm simply going to break the egg yolks and scramble. Okay. Scrambled eggs, there it is. If you want to make scrambled eggs at home, that's how you scramble them. Alright, so now I'm going to add in my milk. This is 1 cup. And then my 2 tablespoons of butter. 1, 2. Because I'm doubling it, I want to make sure I have 4. Just like that. Voila. Okay, it's all mixed together. And now I'm going to add my liquid into my dry. And I'm going to do this slowly, no rush, because I don't want to make a mess. Make sure you get the sides all the way around the bowl, the bottom of it. And the good thing about a recipe like this is that if you feel like it's too thick or maybe it's too loose, you can just add a few more ingredients which are going to help you out. And the more you make pancakes, the more you're going to have a preference on how you like your batter. So for me, I know that I like my batter a little bit looser than this right here. So I'm just going to add a little bit more of my milk by eye. I'm going to add a little bit at a time. I'm going to stop. And I'll mix some more. Until I feel that it's at the consistency that I'm looking for. Clean as you go. That you're looking for. Voila. So, this is going to rest. All the ingredients are going to kind of work together, develop flavor on their own. So while this is sitting, I'm going to turn on my stove. And the heat on the stove isn't that hot at all. I'm looking for low to medium heat. I don't want them to burn. But I also want them to cook all the way through. So if it's too low, it's going to take too long for your pancakes to actually cook. But if it's too hot, they're going to burn on the outside faster than the inside's going to finish cooking. So the outside will be overly cooked, and the inside's still going to be raw. So it's definitely one of those things where you have to play with it. And every stove is different, whether it's an electric stove or a gas stove with a bigger pilot or a smaller pilot. I've cooked on my stove for a while now, a couple years now, so I have a better idea of how it works and the best spot or the sweet spot that I want, especially for pancakes or any other items that I'm looking to cook. So when to put these in the pan, I'm actually going to go with this 3/4 cup. To me, personally, I like the size of this pancake that it makes. For some people, they might want the really, really big pancakes, and that's fine. You just have to know what size pan you're using. So for me, I'm using a little bit smaller pans. I already oiled them or greased them. I melted the butter in. You can melt the butter in them as well. You can do that, and then this way you don't have to do that later on. So I'm going to use a 1/3 cup for this. If I have a bigger pan, if I wanted to use that, you could use like a 1/2 cup measurer to pour into your pan and have bigger pancakes that way for sure. Okay. So here I have the heat. I don't know if you can see it, but it's very low on both of these pans, and they're just heating up. And I want to give them a little bit of time to kind of warm up, so this way the heat is even throughout when I go to pour the batter in there. Don't forget, chocolate chips, blueberries. Let's see how I can do this on my computer. I'm just going to pour it right in there. And this is a good spot to check, even to see if your temperature might be too hot or too cold. Just simply by letting it cook a little bit, but then coming underneath and just lifting them up to see if they're cooking too fast or too slow. Now, I could have went up to maybe a half on this, but once I flip these over, they're going to rise. And if I fill this pan too much, it's going to take longer for the pan to warm up, and the temperature is going to drop dramatically when I do add the batter. When knowing if pancakes are done, you're looking kind of for bubbles. There's going to be bubbles that are going to come up into the dough and then kind of explode. And when those bubbles start to happen, that's when you know it's time to flip a pancake. If you start touching it too much, you're going to break up the pancake, and it's going to fall apart. So here is where you want to add either your chocolate chips, maybe your banana, maybe walnuts or blueberries, and this is the spot where you want to do that. And you can add as little or as many as you want to this. You could even add cereal. Say you wanted to add your favorite Captain Crunch cereal. You could do that as well here. So get under, and then, it's okay. It happens. That's what you're looking for. But if it folds over and it breaks and it doesn't look so good, it's fine. We eat it and nobody has to know. So I'm going to keep cooking over here. I hope you all enjoyed my class. I'm going to have 2 questions that I want you to answer based on the class. And we will then continue to keep building on your skills in the kitchen. And hopefully by the end of this, we will have been able to cook a variety of different things, maybe from breakfast all the way to simply helping out for dinner. A day, or maybe you start to do it on a routine where you start helping a few times a week in the kitchen with mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, or brother, sister, aunt, uncle. So hope everyone's being safe. Enjoy your time. I look forward to seeing you, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.